You know, there comes a time in every man's life when he has to embrace the meme. For years and years and years, there's been the right way to play Anti-Mage, getting Battle Fury, Manta, taking up and fighting. And then there's been the meme way to play Anti-Mage, getting Dagon, Blink, Blade, and kill stealing. Although that last point probably goes for the first point too. I mean, I'd hope you guys are familiar with it, right? You've seen the video, Blink and Slam and Anti-Mage. I'm not getting too old, am I? I mean, that was released, what, like 2012? I hope you guys were around at that point, right? But the thing is, we don't really deal with right ways and meme ways to play certain heroes here. What I'm concerned with is finding the only way to play them. And a Reddit post today got me reminiscing about a very, very classic guide that's weirdly never really gone out of fashion for me. And I'm seeing that post rise higher and higher with upvotes, so now the world seems to be okay with what I'm about to bring up. So, because I make controversial builds, sometimes I make really fun builds. What's bizarre about this is how it asks you to throw away any and all of your preconceived notions about what it means to be a good player. Because, I don't really know if I want to encourage that, because being a good player is probably a good idea. But to play Anti-Mage in the way that we're about to means that you've got to completely disregard your empathy and humanity. I hope I don't find out that you guys already have done that, but imagine, if you will, the pain of having to give your dog a bath, or worse, like some medicine that it really, really hates. The poor puppy can't comprehend it, and it's crying and whining, and it's tearing your heart out to do this to him, but you know that you have to, and you know that this poor dog can't actually understand that you're helping him. He just cannot comprehend it. From his perspective, his best friend in the whole wide world has pinned him down in the bathroom, locked the doors, and is pretty much just giving them this awful, awful stuff that makes him feel sick, and he's slowly learning that one new trick old dogs never want to learn: how to hate their owners. But to you, you know that you're the good guy. I mean, you're helping him. If he doesn't get this medicine, he'll feel really, really ill, and you'll feel really, really ill by proxy, and at some point this stopped being about Dota, didn't it? I'm more of a cat person. Well, basically, we're about to rush Rapier on Anti-Mage. That brought you back, didn't it? Okay, so bear with me here, because it gets worse. I'm laying my cards on the table right here and now. Divine Rapier is the least controversial part of this build. So let's get into it. You begin with going safe lane, the part's still true. We go safe lane, carry items, tangos, Quelling Blade, Stout Shield, you know the drill. I mean, we still focus on last hits over all else, and we rush that Ring of Health for Battle Fury later and for Sustain now. We could, to an outside observer, be mistaken for a decent human being going a thought out and intelligent, decades old, tried and true Anti-Mage build. But they're wrong. Because if all of a sudden they were to skip forward to the end of the game, they'd see this. A one game with an Anti-Mage who goes Battle Fury, Boots of Travel, Blink Dagger, Silver Edge, Divine Rapier, and then another Divine Rapier. Oh my god. Okay, so hear me out again. The core concept of this build is that Anti-Mage is a disgustingly annoying pest for anyone, bar maybe a Bloodseeker going up against him on the enemy team. He's truly frustrating. I don't think any of us could really argue that, right? But the one thing that he has going for him is that if you catch him aggressively blinking, you can potentially stun lock the guy into oblivion. That, and he takes a while to come online, takes a lot of farm from his allies, doesn't split push too fast before late game with Manta, and is generally not as bad as a Tinker or something. But at a point where you're saying, as a good thing, he's not as bad as Tinker, I mean, you've already lost, because nothing is as bad as Tinker, but that's for another time. Today on The Only Way to Play, we're going to make Anti-Mage worse than Tinker to play against. And aren't you guys lucky that this video is one of the Patreon exclusives, right? Now it won't get uploaded publicly, so you guys won't ever have to play against this strat. Because it's dirty. Not in a sort of kinky way, in a sort of, ooh, I feel tremendously guilty, and I need to take a cold shower sort of way. And you can enjoy that sensation right now! Okay, so here we go. This is the pitch. At the exact second you finish Battle Fury, for argument's sake, let's say you get it around 15 minutes. No, wait, what am I saying? You guys are all pledges. You're clearly enlightened beings who managed to snag a sub 9-minute Battle Fury every game. So yeah, let's say you get your 9-minute Battle Fury. Well done. Now immediately remove that Yasha into Manta style from your quick buy and slam down that Blink Dagger. Your job from this point in is to zone completely out, transcend the petty squabbles of your teammates and rise above it. You don't have a team anymore, at least for now. Your job is to use both of your blinks constantly to maintain a perfect pattern of farming enemy creep camps before the enemy cam, bang, 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 jumping around with Blink Dagger and Blink. Oh. In 20 seconds, you can pretty much traverse the entire Dota map from fountain to fountain. Imagine what it would take for an enemy pursuer to do the same. You know, The only person I can actually imagine who can even attempt to keep up with that speed is Storm Spirit with a well-used Ball Lightning and a giant Mana Pool. But I don't need to tell you what happens to that Mana Pool with a jump like that, right? And I also probably don't need to tell you that Anti-Mage is probably pretty excited over a sight like that. Look at him go! But that's not why we get Blink. It's really not. It's more just like an incidental feature. We're not really needing to get more farm. We're very rarely specifically running away. What we are doing is constantly moving laterally along the map. That is to say, if we were midway up top lane, we'd make use of our blinks, farm the jungle creeps in between, and ultimately end up midway along mid lane. We're never progressing forward or back for too much time. We're constantly pushing every single lane uniformly closer and closer to the enemy's racks. Our entire job is to put this constant pressure on the enemy to somehow deal with you. You know how, like, Nature's Prophet puts constant pressure on the team, right? It's the sort of pressure you're encouraged to put on a stab wound or something in order to stop bleeding. It's a bit of pressure, but not enough to hurt. Well, the amount Anti-Mage puts pressure on is like putting pressure not with a bandage, but with another knife. At this point, your teammates probably hate you. That's fine. People hated Jesus. They hate you because they caught a glimpse of your build and understandably assume that you're throwing, but you're far from it. One day I'll make a guide on the only way to play with unruly teammates, but that'll be a big hour-long analysis, so I can't really do it justice here. Basically, for now, your actions will speak louder than words. If your teammates are tying a noose around your neck at this present time, convince them that you're not joking around. If they've muted you, if they're yelling over you, if you can't get a word in edgewise, how do you tell them? Well, you could just get a 20-minute Rex. We'll come back to the exact hows of taking a 20-minute Rex soon. Just for now, we'll have to talk about the skill build. Here is mine. You'll notice that the talents are all either related to Blinkin' or Slammin'. I wonder if that's just a coincidence. Mana Break burns 28 to 64 mana per hit and translates 50% of that number to physical damage. Because this attack modifier is actually added into the same instance of damage as your base attack, they combine up and you can actually buy lifesteal to capitalize on that. Because instead of what usually OD or like Huskar or anyone else with an attack modifier, what usually happens with them is that the first attack goes through and then the second attack goes through and deals damage that can't really be amped. Anti-Mage can. You can get crit if you wanted, although for Anti-Mage, Axefrog specifically actually just changed that, so you can't. You used to be able to, and it was fun. But yeah, you could buy lifesteal, and yet nobody ever does. Womp womp. Neither will we, actually, considering we'll never actually be anything less than 100% healthy at all points in time, because Blink has a cast range of up to 1150 at level 4 and 1550 at level 4 with the level 20 talent. I mean, it's a Blink called Blink. What else do you want to know? Just in case you don't know, all Blinks give a disjoint to any projectiles being sent Anti-Mage's way, unless of course they're undisjointable, like Lich's Chain Frost. If we wanted to do some maths to help us sort of comprehend the relevance of a Blink with 1550 range, here. The Dota map is exactly 15,000 units by 15,000 units across. If we use the Pythagorean theorem, we can surmise that 15,000 squared plus 15,000 squared is 450 million? So if we find the square root of that, we'll get 21,213 units diagonally from Radiant Fountain to Dire Fountain. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Oh, I did it! You know, in my years and years past high school where I first learned that equation, I'd never used it until exactly now. And of course, it's for helping me with my gaming videos. I hope you're proud, Mrs. Brown, you old cow. Without moving an inch outside of those blinks, it would take Anti-Mage only 13 blinks to get from Radiant to Dire Fountain. Yikes, it's like the fantasy equivalent of them huge fatzos and Wally on those hover chairs. Ah, that'd be the life. Spell Shield just boringly gives magic resistance, up to 50% at level 4 and 75% at level 4 with a level 25 talent, but we've got another problem. Being the smart and inquisitive mind that you are, dear viewer, you would have immediately noticed that, wait, Anti-Mage starts off the game with an innate 25 magic resistance. Does that mean with level 4 and the level 25 talent of 75% extra magic resistance that he actually hits a perfect 100% magic resistance? Wow! But that didn't make sense. It turns out that no, that's absolutely very much not the case. Sorry, friend. You actually run into our old buddy multiplicative stacking over here again. This is how it works. If a spell does 100 damage and we have an innate resistance of 25%, it's reduced to 75. Makes sense? Then, the other source of magic resistance comes in, so now we bring it to level 4 spell share with the talent, so that 75 is brought down by 75%. So instead of a 100 damage attack dealing 0 damage, it deals 18.75. Not exactly 100% magic resistance, and when the spells get way more spammy, you'll definitely notice the difference. Fortunately, we'll never be hit by a spell at any point in the game. Unfortunately, the other level 25 talent is sort of bad too. Let's talk about the spell it's for. Mana Void is that spell everybody knows of, and the spell that all of us everywhere in Dota just pretend like we know how it works. But it's my job to explain these things once and for all, so I guess I have to actually figure out what's going on. Okay, bear with me, because this is the first time I'll ever know. Alright, Mana Void is a nuke. It has a mini stun of 0.3 seconds, I knew all that, a cast range of 600, and a radius of 500. It has a cooldown of 70, and this is the easy stuff. It's unit targeted while also being AoE. Exactly like Sven's stun, or let's just Frost Blast, I guess. The unit that is targeted is the one that takes all of the calculations. The heroes in the AoE around that targeted unit just pay the price. What calculations specifically, you may ask? Well, Mana Void deals damage equal to either 0.8, 0.95, or 1.1 times the number of missing mana on a hero. Well, I shouldn't actually get that specific, not just hero. You could also accidentally misclick it on a creep. It's a lot like Necrophosis ult, just with mana instead of health. And it also deals magical damage. Which is blasphemy, isn't it? I mean, anyway, it works like this. As I said, for every bit of missing mana, it deals damage. Therefore, the damage changes on a case-by-case basis. It's different for every single hero. It's different for every single point in the game, because every single hero is getting new items. With that in mind, I'll give you the specific points of importance for use in decision-making when doing the calculations yourself. Just sort of take ever so slightly too much time. It's sort of like knowing that 144 is the square root of 12 and 12, so you can assume that anything higher than that would be the square root of a number higher than that. You know, it's just good to have these sort of milestones. To start off, it's very good to remember that it's a very rare occurrence for someone to have more mana than they do max health. It's best to use your own discretion here and sort of understand what most heroes build, but for simplicity's sake, you can assume that strength and agility heroes all will have very, very low amounts of mana, and int heroes will have higher. The heroes with the highest mana in every single game will always be the Storm Spirits, the Tinkers, the Lashraks, and the Invokers. The lowest will always be your Troll Warlords, Huskars, and Phantom Assassins, unless I release in the future that Bloodstone PA guide I've been putting off. But that's a joke, I swear. For the average hero, if they have 1000 HP, they have about 800 mana. Obviously, the best time to use this is at the later end of a fight when they've burned all their mana, which also gives you time to get in mana break procs and auto attacks, because normally, you know, we'd be attacking enemies, and therefore itemizing towards attack speed items to make our mana break, which can't increase in damage per hit, damage more by simply getting more hits in. But Raxes don't have mana, so for us personally, it's a moot point. Basically, in theory, to wrap this first part up, it's nearly impossible to kill anyone with this in the early game, even when they're all out of mana, because their total mana pools are so low anyway. For reference, on average, Mana Void on a non-mana hero will deal about 250 damage in the early game at level 1, 760 damage at the mid game at level 2, and about 2200 damage late game at level 3. But now that we're done with all of that normie stuff, let's do something stupid.